On today's episode of Locked On Wild, a great second start for Jesper Wallstedt against the Chicago Blackhawks and some Kirill Kaprizov stats that are going to absolutely blow your mind.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we recap Jesper Wallstedt's second career NHL start. For those that missed it, it went a lot better than his first career NHL start did. We'll talk about that, as well as some of the other things we saw in the game against Chicago. By all accounts, a game that you absolutely should win, and the Wild did. We'll go through some just insane Kirill Kaprizov stats, and I'm going to end up making myself sad by looking at where his numbers are at compared to other parts of the roster. And we'll also finish by looking at some of the things that we hope to see down the stretch, with now, by the time this show has been put out, probably, likely, maybe, hopefully eliminated from postseason contention. My name is Seth Topol, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, credentialed Wild media member, and joined today for a victory Micheletti Monday by Alex Micheletti, coming off of a 4-0 win over Chicago. Alex, it's amazing how if you just play a little defense in front of your goalie, how much better the results can look. And the Wild win 4-0 over Chicago played out pretty much exactly how you would expect it would against a Chicago team that just has no desire for any points at this point in the season. But I thought Jesper looked really good, but the effort in front of him defensively especially was just so much better than it was against Dallas. And so it all leads to not only a win, but a shutout for Jesper. What did you think of his second start at the NHL level?
Yeah, it's so weird playing games against the Blackhawks because the shot totals and when shots are going to be coming, you have no idea because it's such a lifeless bunch. But he made some really good saves in that first period especially, he just looked more confident and calm, and that was nice to see. But yeah, for his case, you have to be so sharp against a team like that because you can go 8 or 9 minutes without facing a shot, and so you have to be prepared for what comes your way. And that's a tough building to play in the United Center. So again, he's made both of his starts on the road, which is not easy. You would hope he would get a home game, but it looks like the next game he's going to probably play is in San Jose. So it's just more road games for Jesper.
The things that I liked when he talked to Kevin Gorg after the game, he talked about how this time around he wanted to do a better job in terms of getting positioned to face shots. Mm-hmm. And he did that. He did a much better job of getting himself in position. And I think the thing too was just staying in position. Like sometimes, depending on where the shot is coming from, there is, for young goalies, a tendency to try to make the play, but then leave yourself open for a potential rebound, tap-in type situation. he just did a really good job of staying home. And like you said, there was, I think, to start the second period, I think Chicago went the first 9 minutes and had maybe one shot on goal. They had a couple of other stretches like that. Yeah, it's not a great Chicago team, but
they have guys out there that have no business being in the NHL. Yeah, it's they're clearly in tank mode, but yeah, that's what makes it difficult. Even when you're playing against a team that's tanking, you just don't know when shots are coming.
yeah. And the other thing that I liked, of the 34 shot attempts that Jesper faced, there was one medium danger shot and there were 3 high danger shots.
Right.
But that was it. Like beyond those 4 attempts in which Jesper was perfect on all of them, beyond that, a lot of what Chicago threw on nets was from the perimeter. And there were 15 blocked shots, I think, by Minnesota Wild players. So they were committed to making the plays so that Jesper didn't get peppered with shots and had opportunities to make clean saves from out deep. It just collectively was a team helping their goalie out, but it also was a goalie making some plays. It was a nice perfect balance of what you need to have, especially for a young goalie who is still getting accustomed to life at the NHL level.
Well, it was so nice to have Bogosian back too after the debacle of Merrill Goligoski the night before. So that was just, I have no idea what they were doing against Winnipeg. So it was nice to have Bogosian back, and he contributed to that third goal that Freddie tipped in. And it was nice to see Freddie Gaudreau show some life. Yeah, we had gone 14 games without doing anything. So that was. Of course, it takes for Chicago for the light bulb to turn on for one of the cardio boys. But yeah, it was super nice that they were able to get Bogosian back in there, and you just you're like, oh boy, 11-7, but it works against a team like Chicago.
I mean, if you're gonna play John Merrill 5 minutes,
right,
as part of that mix, like sure, you're gonna
let Kirill go double shift. Yeah, not bad when you have 97 out there more than usual.
I mean, it certainly helps. And Bogosian, he played 21-55. He had an assist. He was a +1. He blocked 2 shots. He had a takeaway. He had a giveaway as well. The defensive minutes were spread about as much as you would expect. Faber had 24 minutes. Middleton had 20.
What a pass to Kirill on that last goal. My goodness.
Was sick.
Wow.
That was a sick play. Yeah. And it was fun to see. And this will lead into more of our conversation in the final segment. It was fun to see the players that took care of business in this game be Jesper, be Marco Rossi, be Brock Faber, be Kirill Kaprizov.
What a another great pass by Zuccarello to Rossi too. That was just unbelievable too.
And Rossi just letting that thing fly from the face-off circle.
Just a rocket. The goalie had no chance.
I'm very much in favor of seeing more of that. I don't want to tip my hand too much because we're going to do the full round of report cards again this year. But if Rossi starts to develop even the ability to bury those shots from the face-off circles as a guy who can also excel at getting to the net, seems like a guy you would want to keep and build around, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And even if he doesn't get that top line duty, if he's still in the top 6 role, to have that, a second line be capable, because we've seen this team where they rely on one line way too much. So you have to have 2.
You got to have 2 lines, and we've got 3.5, 4.5 players of a top 6.
And then you see 90 and they're in the top 6, and it makes you want to have the eyes roll in the back of your head.
Hey, it did not end up being a 40-second game of 1 or fewer shots.
Right. It was shocking to see both of them with multiple shots. I was like, oh my goodness.
Almost as if they took the John Hines, there were too many passengers to heart.
Hint. Yeah.
Could be.
Finally.
But it was great for Jesper. What I'm hoping, and again, we'll talk more about this to finish the show. I would love to see him get, obviously, the San Jose game for sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to see him get that game against Seattle at home.
Why not? I mean, that it doesn't, and Seattle's out of it, so it doesn't, it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect either team, and that would be the perfect opportunity for him to get some love from the home fans and not have to wait to make a home start until next year.
Yeah,
I mean,
come on.
What are we doing? Yeah, yeah. I mean, after the way he played, he deserves a couple more chances.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree. We'll talk about more of that as part of our what do we want to see the rest of the season, because there are a lot of things, but first we have to get to just a smorgasbord of absolutely insane Kirill Kaprizov stats and where he ranks amongst the rest of even his team. It's insane. We'll get to those as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Sleeper. And with the final few games of the regular season here, you can still win big whether your team is jockeying for playoff position or your team is looking to the future. You can still win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether Kirill Kaprizov, and let's be honest, if Kirill has not been in your lineup, you are doing yourself a disservice, because all you have to do is pick whether key players will record more or less than their sleeper projections for goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. All told, it is 8 player stat categories. There's no player hotter on the earth than Kirill Kaprizov right now. So plug him in and prosper as part of Sleeper. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Reminder to join our Discord server. The link is in the description. We will be continuing to grow that out, and that is a perfect spot to have conversations throughout the week on various topics. We've got Iowa Wild discussion, Iowa Heartlanders discussion, game day, general conversation, you name it. Locked on Wild's Discord server has it. So make sure to join and enjoy the daily conversations going on there as well. Alex, are you ready for these Kirill Kaprizov stats? I've got like 6 tweets lined up in the hopper ready to go. So let's start with Minnesota Wild PR. Kirill Kaprizov, who had 2 goals and an assist, posted his 10th 3-point game of the season today versus Chicago, matching his own franchise record for most 3-point games in a single season. He had 10 in 2021-2022. Per NHL stats, it marked his 30th career 3-point game. He is one of 12 NHL players with as many performances since he debuted in 2020-2021. Kaprizov also extended his point streak to 7 games. He has 5 goals and 7 assists in that span. He has now found the score sheet in 15 of his last 16 games. In that span, in 16 games, he has 15 goals, 11 assists, 26 total points. That's not even close to done. Kirill now has 3 of the 5 40-goal seasons in Minnesota Wild history. The other 2, Eric Stahl and Marian Gaborik. Stahl did his in 2017-2018. Gaborik's was in 2007-2008. Kaprizov has done it 3 straight seasons. On that note, courtesy of Big Head Hockey, everyone in the NHL with 40-plus goals in each of the last 3 seasons. You ready for this list? Austin Matthews, Leon Draisaitl, David Pastrnak, and Kirill Kaprizov. End list.
Can't get better than that. Yeah.
That's it. That's the list. I have more. This kind of makes me sad, though. The Minnesota Wild have scored 90 goals in their past 30 games. Out of those 90, Kirill Kaprizov has scored 23 of them, assisted on 24 of them, been on the ice for 59 of them. He's essentially been on the ice for 66% of the Minnesota Wild goals scored over the last 30 games. Oh, and Brett Marshall. Since returning from injury on January 13th, Kirill Kaprizov has played in 36 games and scored 27 goals and added 27 assists. The 27 goals in that span are second most in the NHL behind Austin Matthews, more than the next 2 Minnesota Wild players combined. Joel Eriksson Ek has 15, Matt Boldy has 11, and he also has accounted for 24% of the Minnesota Wild's goals in that span.
What a stat by Brett.
Yeah, there's more.
Shout out, Brett.
There's more. Other impressive notes, Kirill has factored into 48.2% of the Minnesota Wild's goals in this 36-game stretch. 42 of the 54 of his points are either a goal or the primary assist. He's 8th in the NHL in shots with 139. He's 4th in the NHL in individual expected goals with 19.98. And if you add in Matt Boldy and Joel Eriksson Ek, there's a follow-up tweet. For the math people, this means that Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, and Boldy have scored 53 of the 113, that's 47%, Minnesota Wild goals since January 13th. When you consider they were playing on the same line for a majority of that time, it's a bit alarming that 15-plus players only managed to score 60 times. This brings me to the, and now I'm sad, portion of the equation. Because if you go back to November 27th even, Kirill Kaprizov is 9th in the NHL in points. He has 35 goals and 36 assists in 51 games since. You want to hear some of the numbers for his teammates? Nobody does, but no. I'm gonna. So in that span, Freddie Gaudreau has 5 goals and 10 assists in 55 games. Marcus Foligno, 8 goals, 7 assists, 15 points in 36 games. Marcus Johansson, 9 goals, 11 assists, 20 points in 54 games.
Oof.
Vinny Lettieri,
that's a top 6 guy too.
3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 32 games. Jake Lucchini, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points in 36 games. I mean, I could go on. And like, here's the other thing too. Like, Matt Zuccarello has been putting up points, but we can't, like,
there was no quit in 97. Yeah, no quit in 97.
I don't think we're talking about the fact enough that Zuccarello has kept the assists pace up, but his goals went from 22 last year to just 11 this season. Like, he is passing far more than he's shooting.
He refuses to shoot the puck a ton, which, I mean, you need him to shoot the puck more.
And this brings me to my overall point that I was trying to sell here. Kirill Kaprizov is Minnesota Wild hockey at this point. And so for those that are concerned about him re-upping here because of the on-ice product around him, I'll put it this way. Bill Guerin's job depends on Kirill Kaprizov re-signing here. So you want to talk about a real easy way to immediately lose your job? Let your franchise icon, the first player that you have had that has legitimate scoring ability and legitimate ability to drag a corpse of a roster around with him and still find ways to win games, you let a player like that leave, you will be run out of town.
No, 100%. And panic mode won't set in unless if they miss the playoffs again next season, because if that's, he won't put up with 3, more than 2 years of no playoffs in a row. This guy wants to win. He does not want to sit out and miss the playoffs. He sees buddies like Panarin and Kucherov make deep runs and cup winning seasons, and he doesn't want to miss out on that. So he can clearly say, I'm going to be out of here if you don't improve the on-ice product, Bill.
And Bill Guerin will follow him out the door.
Right.
I can promise you that. He will follow him out the door if he does not re-sign here. Like, this franchise has had one player that is a prolific goal scorer in Marian Gaborik.
He's the best. He's better than Gaborik. He's the best player in franchise history.
He's the best player in franchise history without even a shred of a doubt. You allow that type of talent to walk, you do not get an opportunity to draft a second.
No.
So for those that are concerned about Kirill re-signing, Bill Guerin better be at the front of that list, because Craig Leopold is not going to, for all that we have chastised Craig Leopold this season for where this team is currently at. That is not something you take lightly as an owner, letting a player like that leave.
That's why you brought up, we've talked about multiple times. We both see some type of big move coming in the summer. They don't have a ton of assets to move around, but we expect some type of, we've called it a panic move, but some type of big move to jolt, give some life to this team, because when you miss the playoffs, you really have to evaluate what the heck is going on. And he has to look around and see Colorado has gotten so much better. Dallas, we talk off air. All they do is add leading goal scorers from the AHL onto their team. Like it's nothing. They hit every draft pick that Dallas makes is a home run. It's the last couple of years. It's just been incredible to see them add to their team and get their guys ready for the NHL right away. Look at why Johnson was a teenager, and they got him, and he's already turning into a full-fledged superstar. So, and you take a look at Winnipeg too. I mean, Winnipeg just made some incredible, savvy trades. They got rid of, Pierre-Luc Dubois, who was just a cancer in the locker room, and pick up guys like Alex Iafallo, who just killed the Wild too. He had another great game against the Wild, and Sean Monahan made a great play against the Wild to Kyle Connor for his goal. And they just and Tyler Toffoli too. I mean, no one saw that coming, that he was going to go to Winnipeg. So, I mean, the arms race got, just, it was incredible to see what the Central Division did at the trade deadline. And then Nashville, everybody thought they weren't going to make the playoffs, and then they just turned it on, and the canceled U2 trip lit a fuse. That was crazy.
It's a shame he will never get to free agency, but Sam Reinhart would be a
oh my goodness
fit.
Yes,
perfect fit.
Yes, back the Brinks truck up for him.
Yeah, he's gonna get 12. He'll get 11 or 12 a season, and honestly, even if he gets more than that, I'm not going to be upset, because he is the exact type of player that the Minnesota Wild have been seeking out forever. Is that unicorn type, definite top line guy to slot in next to Kirill Kaprizov. But I have been doing some just insane window shopping, and it's not even the off season yet, with money that doesn't exist. Like we're down bad.
Yeah.
Like,
imagine, I mean, that 14 million, that's almost, it could be 2 lines, could be one, just mega superstar. Yeah, it's insane that they have another year of this.
I'm trying to talk myself into a scenario where Ottawa is forced to move Brady Tkachuk, and we just
That
can
keeps
find a way to do that.
get brought up in my mentions. I'm sure you're getting it too. It's he is a rat, but I mean he's a guy that we see it in all sports. He's a guy, it's like Brad Marchand. You would love on your team, but you absolutely, people hate him when he's not on your team
Could
too.
you imagine
And other
him and
players.
Eriksson Ek on the same line?
Oh man. They just like to destroy get under people's skin. Yeah, it's
Spicy.
but he'll stand up for anybody on his team, which
Mhm.
you love to see too.
He'll take on Logan Stanley.
No, 100%. He would eat him for lunch.
That or Tage Thompson, or I mean, I hope people are sensing the pattern I'm trying to throw down, because I had a tweet that reached 58,000 people over the weekend talking about that
Amazing.
exact thing. We're going to spend a full episode diving into that, because the size has to be figured out. And I understand the concerns that people raise that skill should be prioritized more. It's not wrong. But as this currently stands, with the exception of Marcus Foligno, Jake Middleton, and Zach Bogosian, and Joel Eriksson Ek, with the exception of those four guys, you have zero size on this team. And
well, and it's why Zach Bogosian was acquired. Everybody when he got, or not everybody, but a lot of people are like, why are they trading for Zach Bogosian? He was barely playing for Tampa Bay. That's exactly why he was added, and he's done a really good job, and he earned that extension. He just didn't get it just as a token extension. He can still play. 33. He still has some time left in this league, and his size was greatly appreciated this season, no doubt.
When they say size matters, they mean it.
Yes.
I'm never gonna hear the end of that one, but I had to throw it in there.
Yes.
Let's talk about the future, because we have 5 games left in the season somehow already. And it would be great to get a little bit of a look as to the future. And so we'll talk about how exactly that works down the stretch as we finish today's episode of Locked on Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. One final segment of today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. For the everydayers, we've got a few guests that will be hopping on here the rest of this week, hoping to get Jesse Pierce on the show here before the end of the week is over. And of course, we've got you covered for another full week of West Coast hockey. Tuesday night against Colorado, Friday night against Vegas, and Saturday night against San Jose. And if I recall correctly, the San Jose and the Vegas games are both 9:30 starts.
Get your coffee, get your Mountain Dew ready.
Unbelievable. Vegas is 9. San Jose is a 9:30. Anyway, 5 games left, Alex, and at this point, you're looking to the future. And so here's the interesting part. As far as what can be done to take a peek at the future here. I'll start with this. The Minnesota Wild have $5 million in cap space available right now. Rosters after the trade deadline, as long as you're cap compliant, you can expand the roster. It would behoove the Wilds either today before Colorado or before Vegas on Friday to add a few players to the list of names that are making the trip on the road. Because I think at this point, seen enough of the following: Marcus Johansson, Jake Lucchini, definitely Alex Goligoski and John Mitchell.
Oh my God.
But honestly, at this point too,
how about Lucchini? When you remember in that, I think it was the first period where he just blew a tire and Khrushchev should have scored. I have no idea. That encapsulates the Blackhawks season. I mean, he was wide open in front of Jesper, and I don't even think he got it on net, which is, no. Anybody else is scoring there. That was quite the sequence right there.
Yeah, it's not great. And so, I would say the experiment is over for those particular players. It's nothing against Jake Lucchini.
No.
I know he was on the Bar Down Beauties podcast. He's a great personality.
He's not an NHL guy.
He's an AHL player.
Yeah, he just got called up, or he was on the team just because they were desperate. Maroon getting hurt kind of set a chain of reaction.
So I would say free up those roster spots. Your number one goal needs to be to figure out somebody that can hold down that second line wing spot. That has been the blackest hole on this offense all season long. You need to find, and
you see with Johansson out there. I mean, it's an anchor for Matt Boldy. It's like, dear God, that Matt Boldy can only get his points on the power play because it just disrupts, Eriksson Ek and Boldy. It's frustrating.
I've never seen a guy miss and just whiff as close to the net as some of these are happening. There was another one again against Chicago, and it was just a flat out swing and miss.
Right. And Chicago is just please score more goals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the goalie that they had in there, that Soderblom guy, he's by far the worst goalie in the league. It's hideous the amount of chances he gives up. It's crazy.
It's preposterous.
Yeah.
So you got to find somebody through process of elimination for that second line spot, and
give Riley Heidt all the opportunity. It can't come right now, but it's right there for the taking. Liam Ogren will get a shot too, and it's there for the absolute taking.
Yeah, and it's a spot that they need. It's a spot that they need to find somebody to fill, because getting no production from that spot is putting too much pressure on both Matt Zuccarello and Marco Rossi. You have to find somebody that at the very minimum shoots the puck.
Right.
I had the numbers up a second ago, but I want to say Matt Boldy has, and this is how it should be. I'm not surprised by this, but Matt Boldy has something like 3 times as many shots as Marcus Johansson this season.
It's nuts. Yeah.
3 times.
It's unbelievable. He'll get the puck, and then, he'll circle around the net too, and not even bother to try to put it on net. And then he'll, get a pass deflected or just, turnover. And he's so soft out along the boards too. It's unbelievable too. The puck, there is no puck battling for him.
Most of the entire team is
right.
With the exception of Marco Rossi, Murat Huznadinov,
both of those guys, and they're rookies, and they
Yeah.
battled their tails off, and they're undersized by by so much in height and in weight, and that's you want you want your vets to pick up the slack when your rookies are, or they've barely had any time in this in the best league in the world, and they're putting up that effort. It's it's something.
They're
It says a
propping
lot.
up. They're propping up the entire team. So, who that may be for call-ups,
Yeah.
I mean, take your pick at this point,
Mm.
because you have the cap space to be able to do it. Whether it be Sammy Walker for the rest of the season, because guess what? Sammy Walker's a restricted free agent in the offseason. So you should probably get a sense
Audition.
of where he's at if you're going to re-sign him. I mean, you could probably go Nick Swaney too. Stephen Fogarty is kind of a journeyman.
Classic AHL for
Yeah.
life. But Sammy Walker, if we can remember, he was drafted by Tampa Bay, and he saw the writing on the wall that he would never be able to join that organization at that time, and so he made the decision to sign with the Wild. And I'm sure in his mind, he did not see him as an AHL player, and how prolific of a college hockey player he was with the Gophers. And so, yeah, it just looks like the writing is on the wall for him too here. But he can at least get some more NHL game film out there for other teams, because the scouts are at every game, and so they have pro scouts watching everywhere.
Let's get Damon Hunt back up to,
Yeah.
like,
He's the only. It's crazy. We talk about this off air, but he's the only defenseman down there that you ever hear about.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal. There's a lot of young D down there that are struggling. Poor Jesper, they gave up 7 in his last start, and for him to turn around and mentally be ready for another on the road game, and to shut out an NHL team after what he had to deal with in Iowa down there. It says a lot about Jesper too.
One final thing that I wanted to just talk about briefly, and then I'm going to go into this more in depth as the week goes on. Obviously, there was news over the weekend about the goalie that was signed by the Wild. Samuel Levi is how his name is pronounced. As far
They signed
as
another goalie too, from Wisconsin too, Kyle McClellan. Yeah,
I do remember hearing about that. I will note that Cap Friendly mentions that Levi's contract starts next season. So 22-year-olds, my guess is that he's going to either go to the Heartlanders or the Iowa Wild next year. But that may be an indication that by trying to get another goalie in the system, that a current goalie at the Iowa level may.
Well, the amazing thing too, that Russo, when that came out, he said the Iowa Wild had no goalies signed. So I mean, they had to really scramble, and I'm sure they had their European scouts where they found this guy. They were just scouring all over Europe to try to find a goalie, and he's 6'4". I mean, he's a huge kid. So I mean, these goalies. I tweeted that the other day. I was like, NHL goalies, or pro goalies, are getting so big. It's crazy. It's like basketball player size in that they take up so much room, and so yeah, it's worth a shot. He's relatively young and can develop down there in Iowa, since there isn't a whole lot of competition for him.
Well, we'll dive into that a little more throughout the week, as mentioned, but that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked on Wild. So before you go, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode, or leave us a 5-star review if you're listening via one of the wonderful audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it. We are on it. So whichever method you use, make sure to let us know that you enjoy the show so we can get the word out to more Wild fans by connecting. The more ratings we get, the more likes we get, the bigger reach the show can get, which just allows us to have a lot more fun throughout the week.
We've made it all the way to Australia. It was incredible. The postcast the other night, we had people tuning in from across the world. So we appreciate all the support.
We had somebody from Sweden in the watch party for the Blackhawks game yesterday.
That's incredible.
So just all over the globe, wherever you're at, we thank you for tuning in and for being part of the Locked On Wild community. Let's keep it growing. Let's keep it going. With 5 games left in the regular season, we've got you covered every step of the way. So make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen or watch so you don't miss out on any new content on our watch. Locked On Wild is here for you. So subscribe and enjoy our next video when we see you for tomorrow's edition of Locked On Wild as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.